I can't say good afternoon to you. All I can say is afternoon. Friday, early afternoon. I turned the AC off. I got my heater on in here because it don't make any sense to run an air conditioner. It's chilly in here, you need heat. I just got back from my hardware store, and they have everything. I replaced the short screws that were in here, and these are crappy metric. And I got 4 2-inch screws and 8 nuts. I think I'm okay with that. And he says, what do you expect? It's made in China. It's going to be metric. Yeah, I said, yeah, I know. These, I can get all-size clamps. They have everything over there. That's what I was trying to tell Doug about his big filter capacitors. To get clamps like this, they have them in plastic. They have them in metal. All sizes. But anyways, here's what I am going to do. He cut off 2 pieces, one of PVC and one of well pipe, 2 inches. The well pipe, if I force it on here, fits good. And that'll be my pulley. Of course, I'm going to have to cut it down, and I got the tubing cutter for that anyways. I have to shorten it. I just figured 2 inches would give me something to work with. And, you know, the well pipe is not perfectly straight, but it's only 2 inches, and it'll probably end up being cut down to about 1 inch. The PVC is 3/4 inch inside diameter. It fits on the gear. The gear measures 3/4 of an inch from this peak to this peak of the teeth, okay? So your gear fits over that, but it spins. Oh, I don't want to really use JB Weld every single time. I'll ignore the phone. It's only a telemarketer anyways. Why is it every time I make a video my cell phone rings? Every single time. If I use JB Weld on that, it's going to get down into here, and it's going to bind this up. I was thinking of taking my soldering iron and heat this up a little bit. Not enough to melt this plastic or damage anything inside. And use hot glue. That way, with this gear heated up a little bit, you know, maybe 100 and some degrees Fahrenheit, just enough so that I can put some hot glue on this and then just push it down. And then turn the motor on with this sitting there. Of course, it'll be shortened up first. And keep it spinning around so it won't bind up. I mean, I could probably do that with the JB Weld, but I have a feeling, being that that's epoxy, it could bind up anyway. So I'd rather use hot glue in this to keep this on. Disregard the length of this for now, because I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to shorten this down, and I got to adjust these screws. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a plate of aluminum or galvanized. The problem is the metal I got is very, very thin. Very thin. I'm going to put a plate on this over the top. And I'm going to have a little hole in there, and then I'll stick a bolt in here and try to center it so it sits in this little hole here in the gear. That'll be my centering location. And try to center it. Either I use this piece or I use this, whatever I use. Alright, so let's say that's cut off. There'll be a little hole, a centering hole in this. There'll be a metal plate coming over the top of this with the 4 screws going through. These bolts will be taken out. This nut will be tightened up against the sheet metal that's going to be in here. I just wish I had something thicker than thin. The metal I have is made for roofing patches. You probably have seen me work with the stuff. It's fairly thin, so it's not going to be very strong. But you got to have something on here because there's a lot of lateral pressure when the rope goes through here and pulls up the arm. If you don't have some kind of a bearing surface in this metal, this thing could be pulled right off. You just can't have it sticking out like this, even though it's glued in here with hot glue. You can't just have it sitting here. So I'm going to have a plate on it to keep it in place. Now, I got those 2-inch washers that I temporarily mounted on the other motor. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use one of those washers on the inside of that sheet metal I'm going to put over here. And I know the sheet metal I've got is big enough to cover this whole area. It's just that it's not very thick. I could probably use 2 of those pieces and sandwich them together and maybe I'll be okay. Drill the hole and try to get it centered in here. That's not going to be easy to get it centered. It could be off-centered and wobble all over the place. I just don't have a machine shop to do this stuff in. So, then when that's done, either this piece of tubing or this, whichever I choose, I might end up using this, will be my pulley, and I'll somehow fasten the rope for the arm of Uncle Dorkle to fasten to this. Probably just tape it on there, and as it winds up, it'll keep winding. Now this is 1 inch outside diameter. And the washers that I'm going to be using are 2 inches. So I've got very little area to wind the rope on. Now that's not going to be a problem if I mount this thing on the side, inside of Uncle Dorkle's body, up close to where the cord comes out from his shoulder. And the cord can come out. I can have this on a slight angle like this so that the cord will come down here. You have to make sure that you get clearance here to get the cord in. The cord's only going in one way. It's not going to go around the pulley and come back out. It's a single thing. So the motor is going to go only one direction for pulling it up, and then I could reverse it. I think I got one more relay left. I'm pretty sure I do. So I can make a reversing circuit for this. I'm not positive about that though. So anyways, the motor could go this way or it could go this way with the shoulder cord coming down out of here and going in here. So there's several options. So if you picture this as having a metal plate over the whole thing with a hole hopefully lined up with the center hole in the gear. That should work out just well. Yeah, just well. Why, what English? That should work out quite well. Then, of course, I'm going to use 2 of these 1¼ EMT clamps. These are conduit clamps. Like I say, they have everything over there. They have the plastic ones. They have ones with just 1 foot on them. Or they have 2. And I need the 2. And I'm going to mount 1 here and 1 here. So there's going to be 2. And that's going to be the support of the motor. Now, this thing will sit flat on the dorcal, on the inside of the body. These 4 screws will come through a piece of plywood, which I'll mount this on, and there'll just be 4 holes where these bolts can go through. They will not have nuts on them or anything else, because this is not going to turn. Not with 2 of these clamps on there. They're only 59 cents each. So, yes, you got a little bit of this business. I just take a little piece of 1/4" Luan, stick it up under here and glue it to the plywood, and then put the clamps over that. So that's very, very easy for me to do. So that is the project when things dry out. Okay, so that, I just want to give you an update on it. On this, I think the hot glue solution will be a safer, but may not be a better solution. I would much rather JB weld this. On another note, a couple days ago, I lost another wire off of one of these things. And these are just about impossible to put wires back on, because they will not go back together. I had to throw one out because I totally got aggravated with it. You see how that goes there? Now, these happen to come out of that junky component tester that everybody says they love so much. I've had 2 of them and they're nothing but junk. One of them I sent to Doug last year. Well, the only thing good in the whole thing with these things, and there's been times that I really need these things to get in here, and all the leads were not even soldered. There was real thin wire. Is one of them right over here. Real thin, super thin wire. Here's the pins that normally go into the component tester, into that square thing with all the terminals, and you just push down the handle to lock it in place. Well, when I took this apart, and I took all 3 of them apart, but like one I couldn't do nothing with. I got the wire on there all right, but it wouldn't go in, and the thing went backwards here. See how the hook is on that? Well, it was the other way, and I couldn't turn it around. I tried, and it just wouldn't do it. So I threw it out. But they're impossible to put wires on and get them back together again. They're usually sticking way out here. These pieces won't go back inside of one another again. And I tried and tried, but I managed to make 2 up using much better wire, thin but stranded good wire. The original wire, if you ever open one of these things up, it's a flat, thin metal, and in the center the wire is in a hole and twisted around. The Chinese did not solder it. So you got these component testers, you don't have a good connection inside here. Open yours up if you dare do it. Just pull this open and look. If you get the cheap things, they're not even soldered. The wires are just laying in there. Well, anyways, the wires literally broke off. And that's the things I was using to get into these circuits. I was using this when it was good, and then putting my alligator clip on this end here. But these things kept falling apart on me, to where I had to go back to the good old clip leads, which do not allow me to get into a tight quarters. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to invest in some good ones. So up here, I have two more that I made up. Now this is a high quality one right here. This did not come out of the component tester. It did not have a lead on it. It's a well-made one. I can't read the fine print of what brand it is. This is the other one that came off the component tester. It too worked good. See, but they don't all work like that. I've got another one over here that I got from China, and this is real crappy. It has a tiny hook on it, which won't stay on anything. So I hung them all up here, but this is what I had to do, because I got to a point where I had none of these working. Now, short of buying Pomona, which is very good quality, but they are very pricey. So I may not need any now that I got these made up. But if any of you ever made these things up, and I remember when Doug started out a few years ago, well, I don't know exactly when you started your channel, Doug, but I remember you were making these things, and it didn't look like you had any trouble at all. Maybe you had good quality ones, I don't know. But the ones made in China are not worth the powder to blow them to hell, to be perfectly honest with you. So, I guess the best choice for me would be to get something that's already made up. This is one I threw away. I couldn't do nothing with it. It was not soldered originally, but they're so hard to work with and so tiny. And you put any wire of any gauge in there that's a little too much, you know, anything larger than what the Chinese put in there, it won't allow you to push the button down to make it work. Also, there's an SCR here that I gave the number to Jim, and he says this SCR here would work good in that external clamping circuit, along with a 15-volt Zener diode. So, anyways, that's it. So I got my work cut out for me if I can ever get outside to do anything. I'll probably be building this as much as I can in here off camera. I'm going to do all this off camera and only have it done when it's finished and tested. Then I'll make a video and then then I'll put it into Dorkel. So a lot of work with the drilling and stuff's got to be done outside, of course. The metal filings and everything else. But some of this stuff I can do in here. Not very much, but I can do some of it. So, thank you for watching. Have a good day, everybody. I hope you got better weather than we have.